First of all, a very warm welcome to all of you guys. Today's topic is work hard, play hard, and how to make the most of your UK experience. Before I actually start this, I'd like to do a little bit of introduction about me. So, as I'm sure you heard my name many times, my name is Pei Yan, and that I actually am a recent graduate from the University of Bristol, and I've just did my biology degree there. And also prior to getting into university, I was actually at an international school called Dulwich College Shanghai, and I did the IB program there. For those of you that don't know what the IBDP is basically like an A-levels. It's also 2 years, but it's just like an A-levels where you just do it a course before university. So yeah, that's a little thing about me. And today's webinar is gonna be following this outline. So I'm gonna start by part-time jobs, where to find them, like where you should work at, once you've secured a part-time role, where your national insurance number is, how you can apply for them, the different saving tips when you're a student studying in the UK, and also the budget travels. For example, if you want to go travel around Europe, where to go if you do want to go traveling, and if Interrail is really worth it. So that's something that I will talk about in my webinar. And lastly, conclusion, and then we'll have a question session in the very end for any questions that you may have. And so I'm not sure if it's something that everybody knows, but actually for us, we can work in the UK as an international student. So that is definitely something that you can do under a Tier 4 visa. For offer holders that haven't yet gotten their BRP, this is what a BRP looks like, as an example from Sherlock Holmes. And then the Tier 4 visa states that you can work 20 hours per week during term time, as you can see here. But then usually what the university would recommend is to work around 15 hours per week, just because so that you have enough time for your studies, because you're a student and you are that's basically your full-time job, is to study and all that, like, you know, attending lectures, tutorials and seminars and whatnot. So yeah, glad we've cleared that up, that international students under the Tier 4 visa can work 20 hours per week during term time. So my tips on finding part-time work is that my best tip, my top tip is to work for university. And that is because, first of all, it's very well paid. They are very accommodating because as a university, they know that we're students and we have lectures in the way. And so they allow flexible hours, and also they give you some kind of support for national insurance number. They tell you where to go, what you need to prep, and all things like that. And also there are a lot of roles available at university. For example, the international student ambassadors, where they basically like bring international students around, like pick them up from the airport, or going around university. And also a peer mentor, where you develop a better connection with hello, am I still okay? Yeah, so peer mentor, where you welcome a new student, but you also have a deeper connection with them. And also a telefundraiser, where you call up an alumni. For me, it would be like a Bristol alumni, and ask them if they want to like donate to university. And also for people who have a better skill set in technology. I have a friend who was working at a student and laptop mobile clinic support, and the pay is crazy high. It's around £15 to £20 per hour. And so if you're techie and that you know how to work your way around the laptop, like troubleshooting the internet or like coding, I know that's something that I don't think I can do, but for people that have those skill sets, is a great way to earn money as well while you're studying. Obviously, there are also a lot of part-time jobs available at the SU, so that's the student union with the university. And so, for example, like cashier, like working at a pub, or like waiter, waitressing, like waiting staff, and so on. So there are a lot of available roles depending on your time, depending on like your skill sets as well. And this is just a list of things that I have from the jobs on campus. I got from prospect.ac.uk. So as you can see, I've like listed out a few, like student ambassador or admin assistant for some university. From my experience, I can only talk about from Bristol because it's the university that I went to. But as for your university, I'm sure there are many similar roles or many more roles listed here as well. So it's something that you can think about or check out on. And just so that we kind of know what to expect when we're working as a student. So the British government actually have a law, and it's a national minimum wage, and this is the updated version that I got from gov.uk from the 1st of April 2020. And so if you're age 21 to 24 years old, the current rate is £8.20, and if you're 18 to 20-year-old, you're around £6.45, which I'm sure I think a lot of the audience here are around this age. So what it is that this is what you should expect when you're working for a part-time job, and they're usually quite minimum wage. But as for me, working at university, even before this even though my rate was around £7.70, my pay was around £9 as a base rate, and I got like 10% plus because of like a holiday pay. So on average, it was around £10 per hour. So that is why I would recommend working at the university, because they're usually more well paid than working outside, for example. And also when you're looking for jobs for the first time as an international student, I also think it's quite good that you have like the support from university, just because you can get your national insurance number sorted already. So that's done. And then I think it's just easier if you want to look for part-time jobs elsewhere. But then again, when to apply, you ask. So always check for availability. If you don't know, go to the career service. There's a career center at your university. You just have to ask around where it is, but it's usually at the start of the academic year, or whenever there's new terms, like start of January, where you start applying to like be a telefundraiser or Easter, because it's when I applied. But then for the application for Easter, I only started the role after summer, so like the new academic year. So just something that you want to look out for if it's something that you're interested in, and also apply early, because then you can get your application in. And also a good time to apply for part-time work is also Christmas, because as I'm sure you are well aware, the Western culture celebrate Christmas quite heavily, and so there will be a shoot on demand for Christmas shoppers. And that also means that they would need Christmas workers and part-time temporary workers to fit into like demand of Christmas shoppers. So you can work at Topshop, Primark, The Body Shop, or like other supermarkets like Sainsbury's, Tesco and whatnot. So these are just a few things that you want to look out for when you're applying for a part-time role. Once you have secured a job, the next thing you need is to get your national insurance number, because that is what is required of you. You need that if you want to have a part-time job. It's quite a simple process, but you do need to have all your contact details and documents ready for the application. So what I did was that I phoned the telephone number for national insurance number appointment, and then I just gave them my contact details and brought all the documents with me, like whether it is like your bill letter or like passport, BRP, student card, my employer information, which happened to be University of Bristol because I worked at university. So these are the things that you have to bring, and this is an example from gov.uk as well, where you have the numbers here listed here. So as you can see, just call these numbers and then get an appointment, and then you turn up for the appointment. There's one at every city that you go to, or the nearest one to your university, and hopefully you can get a national insurance number. It was quite a relatively simple process. I turned up and then talked to this guy that was there, and voila, I got my national insurance number in the mail, I think a week or two later. So yeah, it's just something to have. And once you have earned this money, once you've got national insurance number and you've got all that sorted, you don't want to squander your money away, right? But luckily for us students, there are many ways to save, because there are a lot of like discounts, especially for students. like student beans or like a nectar card, which is basically like so I shop at Sainsbury's, which is a supermarket, and they have this loyalty card called nectar card. For example, if you work at Tesco, that's the supermarket that you go to, you'll probably get like a Tesco loyalty card or like a Co-op card, which is another supermarket. So depending on where you go to shop, you can always get that loyalty card, because I've gotten like a few £5 off just like from grocery shopping. And also another card specifically for students, also it's a totem card, and also a 1625 rail card. So the next couple of slides, I'm gonna talk about them. I'm gonna give a few examples and how they are and what they are in detail. So first up, we have the student beans. For those of you who don't know what Boohoo is basically like, I don't know, like Topshop, like an online retail clothing where you can get your clothes from online. And usually you get a 40% student discount with student beans. So that's good if you want to get your outfit sorted. And then the next might be a Nintendo if you want to get a Switch or something. Luckily for you, student beans have 10% student discount, and you can just get the voucher code from there. And also it's free delivery. Or for example, Gymshark, if you want to have, I don't know, look good in athleisure or whatever. So that's 10% student discount as well. So there are a lot of things available. You need to find what is suitable for you, what is it that you want. And also similar, like a totem card, but a totem card you need to buy to get a membership. And this is more towards like other things like Virgin. So there's a £50 wine voucher, and also like Co-op, that's usually 10% off. Again, it really depends on where you shop. It really depends on like where you're located, what you want, what your spending habits are like. And then you see if it makes sense for you to have these kind of memberships. And the last one I'm going to talk about as an example is the rail card. So the 16 to 25 rail card is basically a membership for like a youth membership where you can get 1/3 off when you're traveling on the train. For me, I gotten my membership rail card around December, and I only got first year, 1 year and 1 year. And so I actually spent £90 in total. And now, even though my membership is still active, I'm not able to use it because I came home to Malaysia since March already, even though it expires in December. So what I would advise students is for like young first years to get the 3 years one instead, because it's actually quite a good deal if you're planning to go visit a friend in London, or you want to go visit, I don't know, your family member, your friends, or like just UK traveling, go to Bristol, go to Birmingham, Sheffield, Cardiff, Brighton, wherever you want to go, like go to Scotland by train. I think having this 1/3 off is really quite a good deal, because train tickets in the UK can be quite expensive. You think that train should be cheaper than flight tickets, but that's usually not the case. So for first years and for offer holders that are watching this, I'll recommend you to either get that 1 year right now when you first land in the UK, or the 3 years, because now I just feel like, I just hope that like someone would have told me that it's super worth it and that I should have gotten it sooner. So yeah. And next thing, I'd like to transition into budget traveling. So for budget travels, the tip is to plan early. Obviously, tickets will be cheaper when you plan early, when you buy them early. So that's where I usually get the tickets if I know I want to travel in March during Easter holidays, or like during Christmas or something, or like some kind of holiday that you want to go to. But usually don't travel during Christmas, because that's when the peak traveling time is. But so yeah, I was actually managed to went to Spain during my off-peak traveling. So it was in January, right after my exam, before my term time. I was able to go to Spain to visit my friend. And also I got a Cyber Monday ticket. It was a single ticket. It was like £11 if I didn't remember wrongly. So that was quite cheap as well. And then a youth pass Interrail card. Benefits of being young and a student is that we usually get a lot of discounts for travels and for savings and for like everyday spending habits. What I usually do is go to Skyscanner or Google Flights, and they are really good like flight website that you can see for like cheap flights and everything else. So you can also easily compare them between the dates. So it's up to you. Yeah, so that's just the usual websites that I go to when I look for cheap tickets. So when you're traveling, obviously you also need somewhere to stay. So what I would recommend is that you stay in a hostel. Obviously, accommodation is very important because we want to have a good night's sleep. And when you're traveling, you tend to be so tired during the day, doing all the sightseeings and the cool things that you're learning. So my recommendation for young adults like us is to stay at a hostel. Hostels in Europe are actually a great way to get around because first of all, they're very conveniently located. They're usually around city centers in major cities. So not only that you're already in the center, you are also saving up on transportation costs, which could be another additional cost when you're traveling. And also you can get all your basic necessities there. All you really need is just a bed. So usually a bunk bed and then your showers. So that's usually provided already. And sometimes they even have breakfast. So that's breakfast sorted. You don't even have to pay for breakfast. But yeah, so for me, I think the best way to like for accommodation when you're traveling is to stay in hostels because they have everything you need. Also, another good thing that I like about hostels is the social aspect of it, because you get to meet so many other young travelers that are doing the same thing as you, that are traveling from like Morocco, traveling from the US, and just all at this one hostel together. I think that's a really cool experience to share with other young travelers as well. Just to like reiterate how cheap and how economical it is to stay in hostels, I have an example. So here are just some examples of Amsterdam hostel prices here in Paris, Berlin, and then now in Barcelona. So as you can see, it's usually £9 to a maximum £25. You can tell that Paris is a little bit more expensive because, well, Paris is incredibly expensive. But when you go to Barcelona, you can get that it's around £9 to £15, but for Paris, it's around £17 to £20, a bit on the pricier side because it's the cheapest you can get. But if you stay in a budget hotel, the minimum is around £60 per night. So by that standard, you're already saving 40 pounds, and you can do a lot with 40 pounds. You can treat yourself to a nice meal. That could be 2 meals. So whatever you want to do, I guess that depends on what kind of travels you want to do. Is obviously like up to personal preference. If you want to stay in a nicer hotel or, you know, like eat nicer food, that is up to you. I'm just saying from my experience that staying in hostels is a great way just because you save on transportation, and also like it's such a great way to just save up and so I could spend on other things. Another question that you probably ask is where to go. Again, it depending on what kind of experience you want. Do you want to go to a city area where you just want to explore the city? Do you want to go travel just for parties, like big parties? Or do you want a more relaxing hiking, like be in touch with nature kind of traveling? So it's obviously up to you because Europe, even though it is quite small, as you can see, it's so diverse, it's so like culturally even, it can be so different from like Spain to Germany or like Italy and Spain even. So it's like quite different from what you want depending on, yeah, and also depends on your culture, what kind of culture you're more interested to, and also like the budget you have, because well, London is quite expensive to start with, and also like the Western European part is also quite expensive. But if you're on a tighter budget, you can always go to like, for example, places like Czech Republic, Hungary, Romania, Croatia, like Eastern Europe countries, where they tend to be cheaper, not just food, but travel, accommodation, and all that. So yeah, it also depends on how much time you have. If you have more time, or if you want to spend, you only have a weekend. So obviously it's up to all these things that you want to experience and how much budget and time you have. And yeah, but I have a few examples from tripsavvy.com that the best youth destinations in Europe are listed here. I haven't been to all of them, so I can't really tell, but actually unknowingly I have already been to 5, even though I didn't check these destinations in Europe beforehand. But yeah, so I've actually been to Berlin, Brussels, Amsterdam, Lisbon and Budapest. So these are all the 5 half of the places that I've already been. So it's actually a great experience. I've been to all of them and I think they're great. It's definitely when you're young and when you're studying and when you're already there in Europe, it's super cheap for you to just fly around instead of like coming from Malaysia or Singapore to fly there. So that's definitely like a lot more expensive than just going from your university or your place and then to the rest of Europe. So I would also like to say that there's actually a lot of like information out there for youth travelers, like backpacking hostels, like travel recommendations. So these are just a few like guide to the countries of Eastern Europe if you want to like know more about the Eastern European culture, or like I don't know, who says your trip can't be weird, or a complete guide to planning a trip to Vienna, Austria. So these are just things like that that you can do, and the information you can find easily online. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but actually I haven't done a lot of UK traveling. So for UK traveling, it can be easily done as well. So for buses, so they call it coach. So it's like National Express and Megabus are actually buses that you can just go, you know, for example, from KL to somewhere else, or so from London to Bristol, you can just get from National Express. You can also go traveling by train, obviously with a rail card, because without a rail card, it's super, super expensive. Get 1/3 of the rail card, get a rail card. But yeah, there are a lot of places that you can go. These are just a few places that I've been to, like London, Stonehenge, Edinburgh, Birmingham, Cardiff. So these are just a few places that I've been to in the UK. Although I haven't done as much traveling in the UK as I have the rest of Europe, but I have done a few, you know, I've been to Edinburgh and climbed Arthur's Seat and things like that. So yeah, I think that's something that I guess I regret a little bit from not spending a lot of time. But then again, it's also not that cheap to travel around the UK as well, because you'd think that travel in the country would be cheaper than going abroad, but actually like a return ticket to Spain might be already be the same price as my train ticket to London for weekends. So it's just a little bit like, well, if you can go to Spain and soak in the sun and go to London, I think I'll choose to go to Spain. So yeah, just a little things that you want to consider when you're traveling, or when you're like traveling, you're planning your travels. But obviously London is so big, it's such a big city, and every Christmas there's something called the Winter Wonderland. So you can see that there's a lot of beautiful lights. So that's me in London. And also like there's a lot of like sightseeing that you can see: Natural History Museum, the British Museum, the National Gallery, St. Paul's Cathedral, or the National Portrait Gallery. So these are all the things that you can see in London. So if you don't want to go far, or if you don't feel comfortable traveling to you outside of like UK, you can always go to London, because I think there's so many things that you can see. And I think I should have taken more advantage of that, I feel. But tips when you're traveling is to always bring your student card, because the museums and art galleries, if it's not free, then it's very discounted for us students. So that's really good for us. Like for example, when I went to Madrid, and one of the famous museum, Prado, is actually free for students. So it was actually like a really good experience to like go to this like very historical museums and galleries for free, when like adults have to pay quite a hefty amount for it. But one top tip though is to make sure that you have to book a ticket online or like reserve a ticket, even though it might be free for you to go in, but you might need to reserve the free ticket or reserve or like book it online or go to the ticket counter beforehand. So it's just something that you have to be mindful of when you're going to like museums or art galleries when you're traveling. And also there are places like Rome. When I went to Rome, it just happened to be the first Sunday of every month that city like sightseeing, like all the touristy sites are free in Rome. So we actually went to the Colosseum for free, which is super amazing. Even though we didn't plan our trip super like to that detail to know that it's free, but it was just like such a nice thing to have that, hey, every first Sunday of every month, all the sightseeing like places are actually free. So I went to Colosseum Hill, like Palatine Forum, like Palatine Hill, the Roman Forum, and things like that. And also one thing that I like to talk about is also the tour guide. So it's usually free in major European cities. So when I did the interrailing, like Brussels, Amsterdam, Paris, or whatever, they're usually free. And then like the tour guides will be carrying like a red umbrella and a square. So when you check in the hostels, and they'll usually have advertisement or like no leaflet, or if they don't, you can always ask the receptionist like where they are, where they usually are. So what happens is that on like that morning, for example, at 10 a.m. or 11 a.m., all these tour guides are going to be with the red umbrella and it will say free tour. And so what happens is that you just go and then they'll bring you around places, like they're like proper, because this is their job. So it's like they're proper tour guides. They gave us like, I know so much more about the history, the culture, why it is like that. So I think it's really good to have that. But also don't forget to tip them when they're doing a good job, because that is their job. And it will really mean a lot to them if you tip them. Although there are some that might not be as good. So yeah, there are a lot of people there with the red umbrella. You just choose whatever you think is that you can connect with, I guess, as a tour guide. Next, I would like to talk about my Interrail trip. So for those of you who don't know, an Interrail pass is basically like a train pass. So I got the one where I was allowed to go to 10 places in 2 months. But for me, in my Interrail trip, I did those 10 places in 2 weeks. And I think in hindsight, we should have just extended it, had more time. I don't know why we rushed it so much, even though we had 3 weeks of Easter holidays. But yeah, so we started from London and took the underground train from London to Paris. That ticket alone was already like £100. But with the Interrail pass, it was like free for us. So that was actually really good to have that. So from London to Paris, and then go up to Brussels, Amsterdam, Berlin, and then down to Milan. So after Milan, we flew back straight to Bristol. And that was super good. But obviously, it depends on who you're traveling with, what you want to see. This is another example from the website. I've got it from Google, some kind of Interrail routes. So they've actually started from Lisbon and then all the way up and then down to Greece. So there's so many places you can go. There's so many places you can see. So it's really up to you what you want to do, what you want to experience and all. Obviously, it's also time, like how flexible you are. If you have to go back to university for lectures or like seminars and things like that, then it's something that you have to like plan, and also your budget. Be sure to like not over budget or like overspend your budget when you're traveling. So for example, Western European countries would be a little bit more expensive. So when you're planning a trip, perhaps be a little bit mindful of what kind of like cost it will be, like locally when you buy a croissant, for example, like if it's going to be €1 or €3. So yeah, just a little things that you need to be mindful of. A little question that I set for myself is Interrail worth it? There are definitely a lot of pros and cons to it, although it is good because they have it's a great and efficient way to travel around Europe. And also it's a lot of flexibility and freedom because you can just hop on any train and you can always like change your route by whenever you feel like it, or if you want to like change your plan, or I want to stay in the city longer because I just enjoy it so much, you can do that. You have the flexibility and freedom to do that because they're trains, they're not flights that you have to get there on that day. And also by going on night trains, you can save on accommodation as well. And also when you're on the train, you can also see a lot of beautiful European landscapes that you might not usually have when you're on a plane, or you wouldn't see them otherwise. But the cons is that it's not cheap. I got mine for around 250 euros, I think, for around 10 places for 2 months. However, if planned nicely, the cost will actually be lower. Like I said, the London to Paris train ticket was actually like around £100 already. So that was already like half the thing. So we wouldn't have afforded that if it wasn't like included in the pass. But it also requires extensive planning. Interrail is really not like other trip that you're gonna take where you just fly to one place and then you like go there for a bit and then go back to your wherever you're based. It requires extensive planning, and also like depending on your mindset. For us, it was just too rushed, and so it was a bit of, we didn't have time to like really absorb the culture, and it was just like always rushing to the next city. So I think it was quite tiring for us in the end. When we finally flew back to Bristol, we're like, oh man, like finally we're home. But also there might not be a lot of trains. There are some parts of Europe, like Germany and Italy are great with trains, but there are other parts of Europe that might not have the connections, like Croatia and Slovenia. We had to actually take buses when we were traveling and when to go to see like the lakes and the nature things. So it's just some things that you have to be mindful of. But I think that it is worth it with careful planning, loads of free time, because you can get to see so many places. If I were to do it again, I would have chosen to definitely spend the 2 months, stretch it out, because we were given 2 months for a reason. I don't know why we did 2 weeks for 10 places. It was super hectic, and also careful planning, because we actually spent quite some time over the train station because we didn't plan carefully, because there were just no connections at midnight. So we actually had to stay at train stations over the night until the next day, which was quite like suffering, I guess. It's just not a very pleasant thing to have spent at the train station. But obviously with careful planning, that would have never happened, and that was on us that we didn't plan carefully. But obviously there are also other trips, apart from flights and trains. There's always road trips. So for us, we actually went from Lisbon to Morocco, on that little card there you see on the right. So that was a great thing to do. But I would like to note that for Malaysian and Singaporean students, I don't think we're allowed to drive in the UK, because we're staying there, because we're not staying there as tourists. We're not there for short term. We're there as students, and we're there long term. So I don't think we're allowed to drive, and renting as a young adult could be quite expensive as well with the insurance. So luckily for me, I have friends who are like British nationals and EU nationals, so it was just quite easy for them. We didn't even have to rent a car. It was like his grandma's car, so that was really good to have that road trip experience. We were from Lisbon to Morocco, and these are just like some pictures that we took at the ferry and also the desert. So that was quite nice. So yeah, there are just a lot of ways to travel. Don't confine to yourself just flight or like just Western Europe, because Europe has so many things to see, and I really like urge you guys to like broaden and just not be so limited to your choices. So we've come to the end of my webinar. To conclude, there are many part-time roles available at university. As I said, they are very, very well paid. It's around like £3 more per hour just working for university from my experience. So I'm like, yes, like you're getting paid more. Who wouldn't want that? And also national insurance number, super easy process. Just phone for an appointment and then turn up for your appointment with all your documents ready. bring everything, bring all your documents. Get a rail card if you're planning to visit your friend or have any other friends that you're like traveling with. Bring a student card always. It's like money, like you bring your student card with you with your wallet. And also there are many travel options. It's up to you, like I said, what you want to experience, what culture you're interested in, your budget and your time. But most important of all, don't forget that you're there for your degree, you're there to study. Even though it is good to have all these experiences, it's all right to like get a part-time job and work and also traveling, but don't forget that you're there to study, get that degree, make your parents proud. I'm sure we're all Asians here, if I'm not wrong, but yeah, don't remember that you're there to study. So thank you for coming to my webinar, and I think I'll pass it to Honwai now.
All right. Can you just mute yourself? Sorry. All right. Hi. Yeah. Thank you, Pei Yan. Thanks for your sharing. I hope you guys actually get a lot of information from Pei Yan, like the traveling tips from her, like how to get part-time job, the national insurance number, and etc. Yeah. So now is our Q&A session. So like I mentioned, if you have any question, perhaps you can just drop your question in the chat box. Then me and Pei Yan will actually answer your question accordingly. Is there any question? Sorry, Pei Yan, did you see any?
Yeah, I can see. Do I answer that one?
I can't answer because I can't see that.
Hello, so I see some questions. All right, thank you, Nuraina. Very insightful. Thank you so much. That means a lot. Feel free to ask any more questions that you may have. Hi, Pei Yan. What is the most memorable trip you have been on and why? I think the most memorable one would definitely be the road trip from Lisbon to Morocco, just because it was like no other kind of travel that I've been on like ever, because Morocco is actually in Africa. I didn't really clock that in when we were planning that trip. It was such a culture shock. We were on the car, in this tiny car, and that was all we have. We only booked the hostels actually on the day we arrived. So that was definitely a very memorable trip for me. The road trip was definitely one of the greatest. I'm not sure if I enjoyed it, but it was definitely very memorable. So my tip, like my advice for you guys, is to just like step out of your comfort zone and just like really do it. If you think you're interested, if you think you can do it, like just do it. Like I think a lot of people have that mindset that like, oh, Eastern European, like maybe I don't want to go there, but if you never try traveling, then why then you wouldn't know, you know, like what the culture is like there and what everything is like. So I think for me it's just go. If you want to go, then go. Okay, I hope that answers your question. 自选所 how to speak with British accent so fluently. This is actually, I mean, I don't know. I don't think I have a British accent. I think my accent has been so Malaysian since I got back because of coronavirus, because I've been back here since March. But to answer that question, perhaps it's because I was in the British international school. I didn't actually spend the secondary school career of my life in Malaysia, even though I'm Malaysian. So I was actually in the British international school in Shanghai. So I think perhaps that's why. And also the UK for 3 years. I hope that answers the question. Yeah, That's probably why. Narina, hi Pei Yan, I was late to join you just now. Can I PM you later because I missed the part on part-time job? Thank you. Yes, of course. PM me, ask me any questions you may have. I am more than happy to answer your questions.
Sorry, Pei Yan. Sorry, Pei Yan. Yeah. Yes, Nuria, just to add on. Yes, you can just feel free to approach to your assigned counselor. Yes, you can connect with the counselor, and perhaps we can also get your assigned counselor to contact with Pei Yan. I mean, if Pei Yan is fine, so perhaps Pei Yan can just share your contact through your assigned counselor. Then you can just communicate with Pei Yan after this webinar. All right? Yeah. Yes. Hand over to you, Pei Yan. Yeah.
All right. By Charlotte Law, have you traveled alone before? Do you find it safe to travel inside and outside of the UK? I think I've actually had that thought to like do a solo trip around Spain because I freaking love Spain. I love the culture, I love the language, I love everything about it. But I just haven't done it, and I think I regretted not having done that now that I'm back and I've graduated. So I'm not sure how it is like being a female traveler, solo traveler, because I haven't done that. But do I find it safe to travel? Yes, I find it actually quite safe to travel inside and outside the UK. Yeah, I think to answer the question, yes, but also there are also like harassment, like catcalls that happens, but that happens everywhere. Like it has happened to me in Malaysia right after I get breakfast. It has happened to me when I'm walking like in London. It has happened to me in Paris. So it really just, unfortunately, this is just the world that we live in. But as a female solo traveler, I think it's always important to be careful. But yes, I do find it safe. You just have to be a little bit more cautious when traveling inside and outside of the UK. I've felt very safe. Yeah. So next question, Nufatiha. Is it tiring to work part-time while studying? Do you recommend it? Yes and no, because for me, I didn't actually work that many hours because I was just like with university and I didn't want to work that much actually. So it wasn't that tiring, but also working for university not only allowed the flexibility, I could choose whatever time, because if the assigned time wasn't suitable for me, I could always ask to change. So I think having that flexibility was really good as well, because it accommodates my timetable and what I have to do, like at the library or whatever. And also, do I recommend it? Yes, yeah. I think it's definitely like a good experience to have. Of course, you also get a bit of money, pocket money. I think that's good as well. So yeah, but for me, I recommend working at university if you want something more flexible, but also well paid. So yeah, I would recommend it. I didn't find it tiring. Wenjuan, do you think companies would prefer graduates who have worked outside of university compared to on campus? Does it matter? To answer your question, part-time work-wise, from all the career services talk that I've been to, I think it really doesn't. It's not about what you did, but it's about what you've learned from it. So I think for CVs, it's important to write what you've learned from it, like leadership skills, organization skills, or like other things like interpersonal skills and such. So I think perhaps maybe for part-time job, it doesn't matter that much. But of course, if you get like internships from like a big 4 company, that's different, because I'm sure that like would wow your future employer or something. But as for part-time work, which is what my webinar was on, I don't think it really matters. It really matters what you've learned from that time that you've been on. Next question, Cheryl. Hi, Pei Yan, thanks for the very useful info. You're welcome. Was wondering about any advice on work-life balance as a new student. Actually, I struggled a little bit about this because I think I spent too much time not working. And I think I kind of regretted it because in first years I didn't really do much. So I think it's also a good. It's because as a new student, you are firstly free from your parents for the first time, so it requires a lot of self-discipline. But at the end of the day, it's really up to you, like what you want for your UK experience. Like it is important to study, definitely, but it is also important to get so much more than that, like making friends or joining societies or getting a part-time job or traveling. It's really what you want from it and what you want to come out from spending time in the UK. So yeah, I think my advice is to plan. I always have a journal for like every week and every day so that I know what I'm doing. So I hope that helps. Yeah, having a journal really helped me with my work-life balance. So I know when I'm getting brunch and when I have to like be in the library and write my assignment. Yeah. All right, Zoe. Hi, which phone plan, Voxy, Vodafone, would you recommend to use based on my experience? Based on my experience, I have stuck to one phone company, and that's giffgaff, and that is because they came in my little freshers box. So from then on, I just didn't switch from giffgaff at all. I know my friends make fun of me because they're like, there are better ones out there. But I just think for me, I don't really use a lot. I think for Malaysians, actually, we use so much data, and I don't get it because I only need 2 gigabytes for a month. So that's definitely something. Also depends on what kind you want. I'm not quite sure with Brexit though. For me, I was able to travel around Europe with giffgaff free of charge with the data. So that's something to look for. But now that with Brexit really like implemented, I'm not quite sure what the plans are if you can still use the data in Europe. So that is perhaps something that you want to research about when you're choosing a phone plan as well. So yeah, just a little tip for if you're planning to travel outside of the UK. Wei Li Cheong. Hi Pei, you mentioned about rail card. I want to ask that, can we get the rail card in the airport? Rail card, you don't have to get that at the airport. You actually can get it whenever. You can even get it in Malaysia, wherever you're based. I don't know where you are. I'm sorry if you're not in Malaysia, but you can. So now rail cards are digitalized. So I actually have like one on my phone. I didn't get a physical card, but it was a rail card membership on my phone, like an app. So you can get it whenever you want. You don't have to get it from the airport. So if you want to use that when you arrive at the airport, then I recommend you to buy it before your flight, and then just use that when you're traveling to your university from the airport. Hello. Next question. What are your advice for the incoming students who are going to the UK? Quite a general question. My advice is to work hard, study hard, but also like don't forget to like relax, and also like travel or like join societies and all. Like it's really important to have a work-life balance just before you burn out. I had a friend actually who was spending so much time in the library, leaving at like 3 a.m. from the library, even though it's like first week of university. So that's something that maybe you don't have to do or shouldn't do, because it really gets you at the end. It's always really good to take care of your mental health as well. So it's important to study, and as well as having time to yourself or doing what you like to do, because there are a lot of societies. For the people that were at the webinar last week, she talked a lot about societies and joining societies and stepping out of your comfort zone. I think that's a very good thing to have for incoming students. Just step out of your comfort zone, join any societies that you like. For me, I'm in salsa society, like the dance, and I love it. So yeah, just like step out of your comfort zone and do it. Zoe, again, hi. Would you still recommend us to travel in Europe during this COVID situation? To answer that question, I'm not quite sure, because I've done all that traveling. pre-COVID time, and now that I've graduated, now that I've graduated, I'm not sure, but I think for us, maybe, yeah, I don't know. I think it really it's up to you. Like, it's so unpredictable with COVID right now. Everything changes all the time. So I don't know. Like, it really depends on you. If you think you're fit enough, the places that you go to, it's really, you never know like how it's gonna be like in January, for example. So I don't know either. Like, I don't think anyone knows. Hi, Wei Wei. Hi, Pei Yan, out of so many universities, why Bristol? I don't know. Actually, it's my friend's firm choice, and he couldn't get in. And I didn't know anything about Bristol. I was like, okay, why do you like it so much? It's just a university. But actually, my firm choice was not Bristol. That was actually my safety choice, and I couldn't get my chemistry grade to my firm choice. So I just ended up in Bristol, and I love it. I love it so much, and I'm so grateful that I've ended up there because it's such a great university. It also has such a good city atmosphere. So I really like appreciate that. Zoe, do you recommend to work part-time during the year of degree? Based on your experience, are you able to cope with your study? Hi, Zoe. Actually, I started doing part-time work during my third year of the degree, and I was able to cope. So yes, to answer your question, yes, it's gonna be okay. Because third year, you also have a lot of like free time because you have less lectures and it's more independent study. So you definitely get to like tailor your time towards what you want to do. So yeah. Paige, yeah, how was the process for you like when you applied for national insurance number? Super easy. I just made a phone call and I was like, hi, can I get a appointment for national insurance number? And they were just like, yeah, yes, just come here this time, this date. So I went and I just told that guy all my information and got it through mail. All right, another one from Wei Li. You will need to have a student ID before you apply for a rail card, so it won't be something you can apply right after you touch down at the airport. Ah, right, okay. I am so sorry about that. I wasn't sure that was the case. And Zoe, many European borders are still closed at the moment. Yeah, so I think, thank you, my colleagues, for really like answering these questions. And yeah, I think that's it. Any more questions for me?
Yeah, thanks, Pei Yan, for answering all the questions, and also thanks my colleague for answering some of the questions from Wei and Zoe as well. Yeah, I believe you guys are really excited after this webinar, because I'm surprised that you guys actually asked a lot of questions, so active asking so many questions. So yeah, I'm happy to know this. Yes, of course, if you still have any more questions, you can always connect to us. Okay, connect to UKEC. Yeah, just go to your Instagram, your Facebook, type UKEC Malaysia, follow us, like us, so you can always get all the latest updated information about studying in the UK. Other than that, you will always get to know all the events, all the online events, the webinars that we are organizing. I mean, upcoming webinars that we are organizing in the coming weeks. So yeah, just connect with us through Instagram, Facebook. Of course, you have your own assigned counselor. Feel free to contact us as well if you have any question. Yeah. Okay. All right. So please allow me to promote